Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. A couple weeks ago, we talked about 5 horror tropes that I did not love. So in this episode of the Horror Fast 5, I'm going to talk about 5 horror tropes that I do love. And these are just things that I have found to be effective for me, things that make sense for me in horror movies, the very idea. And I don't know if some of these fall on lists of things that people hate, but they're things that I love. And so I'm going to talk about them. Which brings me to number 1. And that is, I like a cult theme. Cults in the real world are very fascinating things to me. I probably have, like you see those things that are like, ask me about serial killers and serial killer documentaries and chill and like those kind of things. Like I like that too, but I want to know about cults instead. I've watched a lot of documentaries. I've watched a lot of real life things turned into movies. And cults is just a very fascinating thing to me. And this can be whether it has to do with paranormal or not. I like both. Anything with cultish energy, I'm like all about watching. And I think some of the movies, even movies that I don't really like, some of their more redeeming qualities have been that they're very cult-esque. I've talked about the movie The Sacrifice with Barbara Crampton. It came out, oh God, was that this year or the end of last year? Honest to God, I don't remember. But anyway, it wasn't like a huge fan favorite of mine. I did a 30-second movie review on it on the Book of Faces. And, but one of the things that I loved was the elements that had this like cult thing going on. And it just, I don't know what it is about it, but I think because cults are very real things. And a lot of really, horrible things have come from cults, and a lot of people have died because of them. And they're a very scary concept. This like, like with Jim Jones, this charismatic Elvis-esque looking guy. I wanted to say MFer, but I don't know for 4 minutes in, and I don't want YouTube to treat me poorly because of it. Like coming to people and getting them to go live in Jonestown, and like the mass suicide that happened afterwards. I don't know. Cults are so, I don't know, like they're just so fascinating to me, but they automatically put me on edge because they're so creepy. When I didn't play because I'm a big chicken with horror games. But when I watched someone play Outlast 2 is like absolutely a cult game, and it was terrifying and it's horrific. And I like that a lot. I think for some reason that just puts me automatically in this place of discomfort. And then anything, besides that is just like this added bonus. And I think my second one, I've probably kind of touched on this before. But it's the, anything that has to do with like possession, possessed objects, possessed people. Possession movies and exorcism movies are probably my second favorite subgenre in horror. I think I've said this before, if I had to pick like just one horror movie that was like my favorite horror movie that impacted me the most, that scared the shit out of me, we got to be at 4 minutes by now. It was The Exorcist. That is a terrifying movie. Even now, that movie makes me so uncomfortable. The Last Exorcism, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. What is that movie? Is it just called Possession? The movie with the Dabbuk that's in the, like music box, not a music box, it's a jewelry box. Anyway, the little girl takes it home from a yard sale and she becomes possessed. That was a great fucking movie. I loved that movie. Eli from, well, I guess that was a little bit different. That wasn't quite a possession movie. We'll just scratch that off my list. That's not a possession movie. I'm trying to think of other possession movies that I've seen. I just recently watched The Old Ways on Netflix. Excellent possession movie. I really like possession movies. And so many of them that I have seen, I feel like are really, oh, you know what was another really good one? Sorry, my cat pawed at me and it scared me because we're talking about scary stuff. Go away. Um, what was I going to say? It's like the taking of Deborah Morgan. That was a good one. I think that's what it's called. The taking of Deborah Logan. I'm sorry, not Morgan. Damn, I was close though. That is a great possession movie. That movie scared me so bad. I've seen a couple of B films about possession that are really well done also. One of them I can't remember, but it's another one that has like a guy's name. Okay, so yeah, so it's called The Possession of Michael King. That was also a really creepy one, but I loved it. And I don't know why. I think part of what makes possession movies so scary, and this is coming from someone who has no like religious stance. Like I'm not coming from this place of fear in the regards of like the devil, right? But I possession movies are scary because they have to do with this outside force that you have no control over, taking control of you. And it's almost this just like slow, drawn out process. The Conjuring is a possession movie. So freaking good. Like it's kind of like found footage films for me. If a movie is about possession, I will 100% watch it. I love it. And I love that I feel like I've seen a bunch of possession movies, but I feel like in general, they're not all the same. They all have different stories to tell. They have different takes on what possession looks like, how to get rid of it, if you can get rid of it. And I think that like that makes them even more scary. It's like there's all these like possibilities, you know, and different cultures believe in possession in different ways. And I think that that's also fascinating, which is actually one of the reasons I did like not to continue on this rant about this movie, but that is one of the things I really liked about the old ways is it does talk about a different culture and the way and the knowledge that this culture has and the ways that they protect people from evil spirits, and it's from demonic spirits, and it's yeah, it was super well done. That was a really good movie. It's on Netflix. You should watch it. Yeah, which leads me to my third one. I think I have a specific order, so I'm going to cheat. Yeah, so I've talked about in the past not liking or being a fan of endings that are not happy. I just really like the trope that good can't win. Michael Myers has been stabbing people for a very long time. That motherfucker is still not dead. And it's like, no matter what happens to him, I'm just saying. And I can't remember off the top of my head if I've talked about this one specifically, but I know a lot of people were not big fans of the movie Mama. That movie freaked me out. But that movie, I don't know. That one really had me super unsettled. And this was before I had a kid, so I can't even imagine how it made me feel now. That movie does not have a happy ending. I won't spoil the ending if you haven't seen it. But even though the ending wasn't happy, it made sense. Because in the real world, if all of these horrible monsters and demons and bad spirits existed, we're not winning. Like, that doesn't make any sense. There's literally nothing we can do. Holy water, pray it away. Like, no. Like, there's nothing we can do. And I really love that concept. Instead of giving everyone this, like, satisfying, you know, at the end, like, snatch that away. Make that discomfort last just a little bit longer. You know, in Quarantine, which is obviously is a remake of Record, it that wasn't a happy ending. You were left feeling so uncomfortable. You had no idea what was going to happen next, what could happen next, what does that mean? And I absolutely love that feeling, because I feel like that is a more realistic approach to fear than cheap jump scares or gore effects, or, you know, dark rooms with no light in them, or, you know, like, I feel like those are the things that last, and those are the pieces of horror that, like, really stick to you long after you've seen something. And I think that matters to me for the genre, because I feel like it's just so impactful on, like, your, like, freaked out, like, your freak out mode is, like, really high with these things. You know, the movie The Fourth Kind is also like that. Like, it doesn't, I know we kind of go back and forth between aliens being sci-fi versus whatever, but it goes back and forth. But the reality is, right, aliens are monsters. Monsters are horror. So it can go either way. they go both ways. And so, but that was another one. Like, that didn't have a happy ending. And I loved it. I thought it was way more practical. If aliens were real, if they had the technology to travel as far as whatever to get here, we're not going to win just by trying to learn about them and be peacekeepers. Like, if that were the purpose, right? But it's just very, like, that concept of good can't win is so much more realistic to me, and is so much more effective as a fear tactic to get something that lingers long after you've left the movie theater, or you've turned off your TV or whatever, I think another one, and I've talked about this kind of before in my things that I don't like, but this is kind of like a different side of it. I really do like this concept in a lot of horror movies, more like psychological horror movies, where you have no idea what's real or not. There are so many horror movies that execute this like flawlessly, where you are just like, the first time I saw the movie The Others, I was young. And when I saw it, I'm pretty sure I saw this one in theaters. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, it's super old. You may want to skip like a couple seconds. I'm going to ruin the ending. When you find out that the family that lives there is dead and they're actually the ghost, you literally are in this place of like, you have no idea what to even believe at this point. And I love that. I love sitting and staring at something and being like, what the fuck just happened? And that doesn't happen very often in a lot of really good ways. Sometimes things try to be that way and they end up not being. Like, I feel like the first Saw movie was like that, as far as like its ability to make you start to question everything that you just saw. What is real? What isn't real? It's a really common thing that I feel like you see in a lot of horror movies, but it's not always done correctly. But when it is done correctly, it's very effective. And I love it. I don't want to have everything figured out 15 minutes into the movie. That ruins a film for me. I want to know what I'm looking at is there's this chance that it's not what I think it is. I love that. I think that's great. And sometimes it's done poorly because it's used for like mental illness and the kind of know my thoughts on that stuff, but sometimes it's done really well. And then you're just kind of like, well, now who knows what I can trust. I like that a lot. And that kind of leads me into my last one, which is falls under, I know this is going to be such a shocker, is a common theme in found footage, in the found footage subgenre of horror. And I like this one, sometimes even when it doesn't make sense, but it is, why won't you put the camera down? And so I like this trope for a couple different reasons. I think I've talked about this movie called Found Footage 3D. I think it's on Shudder. It was on, no. Is this before I discovered Shudder? I don't remember, but it's really good. It's probably on like Amazon now. It's a very B film. But in this movie, these group of friends, they go to this cabin to film a horror movie for the weekend, and they're going to do a found footage style movie. And they even discuss, one of the reasons I like it so much is they talk about all the things that most people complain about when they talk about found footage movies. And one of the biggest ones is, if this were going on around me, I would not be worried about filming it. And I think that's important because there's a few good reasons why you don't put the camera down, even though it makes sense. Like, you're like, oh no, if that happened to me, I'd be scared, right? Sure. Okay, fine. So in the found footage 3D film, they can't put the camera down because the camera is the only way to see the evil thing that is bothering them. And that's such a simple but smart move as far as making it a logical thing. Well, we have to keep filming, or that's how you film. This is universal for film. We have to keep filming, or we can't see where it is. We don't know when it's coming for us. We don't know all these things. And I love it. It also breaks down, of course, practical effects, but I won't go into all of that because you already know my opinions on that. But it's like, it's such a cute way of pointing out that sometimes there are reasons for these things. And I think another one that I think a lot of people don't realize, or even maybe don't even think is very valid, is like when you look at movies like, what is it? Monster Project, Blair Witch, A lot of what's the other one? Grave Encounters. Like when you look at those kind of very like um, specific style of found footage movies, they do have a reason. In Grave Encounters, it's kind of second nature to try to capture something because it's essentially about this group of paranormal investigators that get locked into this place and shit goes awry. And they basically, their cameras are their only source of seeing things. Their camera is their only source to be able to document what's happening to them. And it may seem in the moment as an outsider like, oh, that's so stupid. Like if I was scared, the camera would be the first thing I would get rid of. But you're in a pitch black place. You can't see shit without a camera. And you say that, but then you think about the world in the way that it is now. And you think about all the things that you see on the internet that are these horrible videos of horrible things happening. And what are people doing? They're standing by and they're recording it. They're not helping. If someone's getting hurt, they're just recording it. They're recording someone getting beaten. They're recording someone getting hurt. Someone's animals being bothered. Someone's house getting broken into. Something crazy happening. A car accident or somebody coming out messed up on drugs. Like, it's so entertaining to record it. When in reality, you could be making a difference. You could be helping. You could get yourself away so that you're safe. So I think it's interesting that that's still even a thing that a lot of people don't like that when our society is exactly like that. It doesn't matter what's going on. Our cameras on our phones are in everybody's faces. So I think it's unrealistic to think that in those situations you wouldn't continue to film because you would want people to believe you if you survived, which adds a whole nother element to why you shouldn't put your camera down if things are happening. And I think that there's a lot of tropes about that subgenre in general, found footage, that I really appreciate that a lot of people bitch about. But that's one that I think actually has a lot more logic than people realize, especially when you consider how we are about our technology now and how we are about all the things that we do with our phones and our laptops and our tablets and our fucking whatever, right? And so it's interesting that that's still one that people don't like, but the reality is it's not that far-fetched. In Monster Project, it's the same thing. It's a light source. It's a way to see what's going on. And then you're documenting the things that are happening to you. Because can you imagine, like, if you were, I know this is like stepping outside of the box here, but if you were locked somewhere in a room, in an attic, in a basement, in a house, and horrible things or scary things were happening to you, and we already know that people just don't believe anything anybody says unless it's bullshit. So the only way to provide any evidence of what you're experiencing is to film it. So I think that I'm hoping that one day we're going to have this like woke generation of horror fans that's like, you know what? The best subgenre of horror is found footage. I know. Let me sit here till I die. That's never going to happen. But all I'm saying is it's a trope that makes a lot more sense than people give it credit for. And all of these tropes are things that make their movies that have them in them work. Because they're all things that make things more real. They're things that linger. They're things that make you uncomfortable in a way outside of, like I mentioned, cheap jump scares, gore effects, some music and some lighting. Like all of those things amplify what these tropes bring to the story. And without those, it's just a bad horror movie. And while fun, they're not effective. That's my soapbox about my horror fast five, tropes from horror movies that I really, really like a lot. Yeah, I think they're a lot more important than we give them credit for. What are some tropes that you like and don't like? I know I've asked this before, but you didn't answer me then. So let's try again. I'd be curious to know if anybody agrees or disagrees and tell me why, yeah, and that's all I had, I think, for this one. Such strong opinions about found footage. Do you know how hard it is for me not to go off on tangents about found footage film like every time it comes up in subject matter? It's ridiculous. And I take it so personally when people don't like it. It's ridiculous. But I can't help it. Yeah, so those are my 5 tropes that I like. I know I've done a kind of a lot of top 5s lately. They are ways to kind of pack in things without talking about just one thing, like for a 20-minute time frame or 15-minute time frame. So, If you have like a 5 suggestion, like, you know, like you should do a top 5 on this, like, let me know. I am going to do, over time, because I don't want to do them all at one time, because then it's like a bunch of top 5 videos and like nothing else. I really want to do like my top 5 of every subgenre of horror. So like slashers, monster movies. I may make zombies a separate entry. Who knows? Found footage, possession, cult movies. Like I'll do like all of the little subgenres eventually. So those are top 5s that I already have kind of planned out. So if you have a top 5 something that you want to see, let me know. I'd love to hear it in the comments or when you share it on your social media so more people can find me. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you in the next one.